Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner, operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and welcome to our podcast today. Now, I hope that you have been with us for as long as we have been doing the podcast, because you will realize that we have done a lot of great movies over the course of the last 2 years. What may be new to you is that we have not really done a whole bunch of franchises in those 2 years. And that is one of the great things about this month's special occasion, in which we focus on franchises. Now, I'm a huge fan of franchises. I tend to like some sequels better than the originals, and sometimes I just watch the sequels, even if they're bad, because they're a guilty pleasure. Now, that being said, the film that we're going to be discussing today is part of one of the more, cult-based franchises. They made three of them, but some people may be surprised they made more than one. And that would be William Lustig's Maniac Cop from 1988. Now, in this episode, we are just going to focus on that original film, but you will be able to hear and listen to other episodes that focus on Maniac Cop 2 and Maniac Cop 3 Badge of Silence. So after this podcast, we hope that you will check that out as well. I would also like to kind of bring in my special guest to talk about Maniac Cop. His name is Dave Watkins. Thank you, Dave, for joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having me on again, man.
Yeah. So me and him are going to be talking about Maniac Cop, but not just the first one. We'll be discussing the second and third one too. So you'll get used to hearing our voices talk about this franchise that's got started from director William Lustig and writer Larry Cohen. We have both talked about both of these this team in earlier episodes of the show, but it's going to be very fun to kind of go back and talk about this, which is one of my favorite kind of films that they kind of collaborated on. So that being said, 1988 Maniac Cop. What did you think about this film when you first saw it? When did you see it and all that kind of good stuff, Dave?
Well, I don't remember exactly when I first saw this one, but I did. I think it's funny. I actually saw the second one first,
Mm.
so it was which I could be in the minority here, but I think I like the second one better than the first one. But I saw this one after that, and I think that because of there's this one's very unique in the way that it's got it's almost three different genres. And like the first part of the film is a slasher film
Mm-hmm.
in the first 20 minutes or so, and then the next part is like a police investigative thriller, and then the last act of it is kind of like an action horror chase, and suddenly it becomes a St. Patrick's Day film out of nowhere. So,
Yes, I had forgotten the whole St. Patrick's Day police parade until I was rewatching it. And I just saw this recently last year, but for some reason, it just never dawned on me that the end takes place during St. Patrick's Day.
yeah, no, I agree. I'd forgotten about it too until I was watching it because you think if you have St. Patrick's Day in the film, there'd be some kind of lead up to it. But then out of nowhere, it just like someone's like, "Hey, here's a green tie," and they're like, "What's all this about?" And they're like, "Oh, it's St. Patrick's Day," and it's like about like maybe like a third, I mean, three-quarters of the way into the film.
Yeah, they give Richard Roundtree the tie because he's the commissioner in the movie, so he could be presented in front of everybody during the parade. And I'm like, oh, and this is a St. Patrick's Day movie. Oh,
Yeah. The Fugitive is also a St. Patrick's Day film. There's a St. Patrick's Day parade in The Fugitive, which I was looking at movies to watch for St. Patrick's Day, and apparently that's a fairly popular one for St. Patrick's Day. This wasn't even on the list, though.
no, it wasn't on
Like,
the
yeah,
list.
yeah, it was like not even as like an oddball choice for St. Patrick's Day, but apparently it should be because it does have a parade in it.
Yeah, when we were looking for St. Patrick's Day movies to do earlier in the year, this didn't come up. But we did Leprechaun 2 and 3 this year, so
Yeah,
there's another one.
yeah.
I actually ended up watching this movie when it first came out. I did not know who William Lustig or Larry Cohen were in 1988. I just liked the idea of seeing this cop killer type of movie.
Yeah.
But I will agree with you. It didn't dawn on me until I was rewatching it how it flip flops genres, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you're right. it does start off like kind of a slasher. Then it goes to being a police procedure, and then it jumps into this high chase scene at the very action movie at the very end.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think about that. So that's actually, as we're talking about the movie, we should actually delve into a lot of that because part of that is because of the type of characters that are in this film. You have multiple different storylines kind of going in and out of the story, but kind of the main one is about this this cop who is a good cop yet a bad cop at the same time, which we've discussed about these type of characters before. Matt Cordell, who they don't like make it a hidden thing about Matt Cordell in this movie. He simply is a cop, and you see him getting dressed as this cop at the very beginning of the film, and you see his name right there on his name tag. It's not like they hide this in the slightest. But he's killing innocent people as a means to get to the commissioner and the people who helped put him in prison before he so died. We'll discuss a little bit about whether or not we like to call him dead already or not dead already, because it's up to debate, really. But he's trying to get revenge on the people who put him in prison because he was a good cop who just had bad tactics. And then he gets killed or maimed in the prison system by all the people he helped put into prison. That is an interesting concept right there.
They say that after he was either undead or maimed, he had some type of brain damage.
Mm-hmm.
And but so it's weird that he does go after the innocent people. Larry Cohen here, he writes a lot of this film in using the rule of threes. This is really the most noticeable is at the beginning when you see three different attacks within the first like 20 minutes, and you almost like it's like this is cool, this is really, and then the first one's really cool and the second one's really cool, and then just like it's dark. When you see the cop, he looks scary, you don't see him very good. And then you get to that third one, and it's kind of like at that point, it kind of hit me at least. It was like, yeah, this is the third one. This is probably the last one we're going to see for a minute, because that was how they kind of write these things. But but I think that why do you think he is killing? You said to get to the commissioner, but like, that might be the reason. But what other reason? Like it's just an odd thing that he's going after. Like the one girl's about to get raped, and you think he'd go after the rapist, but instead he grabs her and kills her instead.
Well, it just dawned on me when I was rewatching it that his girlfriend Nolan, who you find out later in the film, when she has her conversation with Cordell in the on the docks, Pier 14, she makes comment of why is he killing innocent people and not thugs and drug dealers and criminals? And she asked him why he needs to stop doing that. He's killing innocent people. But she also mentions that they're almost to their goal, which is getting to the commissioner, and so that's where I picked up on that. I didn't notice that. I didn't really think about it really before I seen the film. So
yeah, I mean that's such an odd way to get to the commissioner. Why don't you just walk up to the commissioner and kill him?
I think my theory on that is that the whole film is kind of designed around this one disgruntled cop who is trying to paint all cops in a bad light. And the only way to do that is to kill innocent people and then have innocent people killing normal cops and have it be chaos.
Well,
that's
my
theory.
That makes sense. It's and that is what happens. Like, and that's like pretty awesome part where like after three people are killed, people are panicking, and a cop pulls over a lady and she gets her gun out and just shoots a regular cop in the head, thinking he's the maniac cop.
Yeah. And it didn't dawn on me about the rule of three, but you're absolutely right about that, because the three innocent people get shot, and of course the cop gets shot, and now the city in theory is in chaos, and you have those television prompts where people are saying, they say, I don't, when I see a cop, I just run away. You know, and I like that sequence because it tells it from different people's perspective. It has a regular a younger white dude, then it has the black man who doesn't trust cops, then it has the really old guy who remembers when cops used to use billy clubs, which I found very funny.
Yeah.
But you're seeing the perspective of the fact that none of these people, doesn't matter what color or creed, do not trust the cops anymore. When they see a cop, they are running. And the good thing is they do mention that crime is down.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think people would be wanting to go out too much if the cops are out killing everybody.
So the crime is down, but the commissioner played by Richard Roundtree, in an unusual role, but he does it really well.
Richard Roundtree, known for playing the original Shaft. So.
I know.
In a very subdued role. But
the thing I liked about that is that this is not just like they could have made this like Psycho Cop, but it could be a real easy film where you just have a Psycho Cop out there killing people, and that would have been it. But knowing Larry Cohen, you know, he likes to put a little bit more political commentary in his films, and commenting on the whole structure and ideal of what the police means to the people, and how that image can be marred by just a couple of bad cops. Because the great thing about having Tom Atkins in there is Frank McRae, who is like the detective under the whole case, is the fact that from the very beginning, because he has his own troubled past, he believes that this is the work of a disgruntled cop of some type.
Yeah. He's the no one else wants to accept that, and he's already honing in on it. And Tom Atkins plays a similar character in Night of the Creeps, and in Halloween 3, even though he's not a detective in Halloween 3, but he is playing a doctor that acts like a detective. So he plays a very similar character in all three films, but he does it very good.
No, this one he does really good. I mean, he comes off as very like he's I'm trying to say personable. Because he's personable to Jack, played by Bruce Campbell, who is the cop that gets framed for everything that the Maniac cop Cordell is doing, and of course his Jack's police girlfriend, Mallory. Teresa. I couldn't remember her last name because
her last name is Mallory. Teresa Mallory.
Teresa. He and the fact that he knows these people. He didn't know Jack beforehand, but he knew Teresa from beforehand. And the fact that he's very personable, despite the fact that there's that little hint for the commissioner that he tried to kill himself after his partner was killed in the line of duty and stuff like that. But those little added bits allow him to be much more personable than, say, some of the other cops. And how, in my opinion, how cops are normally portrayed as like these unwavering hero type characters. You know, he has some issues he's working through, but he also sees that the political people don't want to see what's right in front of their faces, which is, this is a cop doing this.
Yeah. In the middle part of this film really focuses on him investigating what's going on and trying to get to the bottom of it, and it kind of just follows his investigation. I think it's interesting with Bruce Campbell's character, who he's like really highly billed in the film, and he doesn't have that much screen time. But he is he's sleeping. He's basically sleeping with this other officer, Mallory. They're having an affair on his wife, and it's kind of an interesting way to put those characters. And she is really, Teresa Mallory is kind of like the lead, kind of hero, like female character of the film, but she's introduced as someone who's having an affair or with this other lady's husband when she's first introduced in bed. That's how she's introduced. So it's a very interesting way to introduce the lead female character.
It's interesting how they introduce all of them. I mean, when you see Bruce Campbell, you see him. When you first see Bruce Campbell, you do not see him from the front. You see him from behind, and he's getting dressed to go to work. You see him getting dressed as a cop. It's the same type of thing that you saw at the very beginning of the movie when Cordell is getting dressed to be as a cop, and Cordell goes out in the streets to kill his first person. Well, Bruce Campbell is getting ready to go out to work in theory, but really he's going out to go see his girlfriend slash person he's having an affair with, which is Mallory, uh, which is really odd considering that they both work the night shifts.
Yeah.
They're
And then
doing
yeah, and then his wife. It's actually set up for the audience, and the wife character suspects him of being the maniac cop. Also, the audience at the same time might think this. He's clearly a lot smaller than the actor who plays the maniac cop, who's a big dude. Was it Robert Zadar? I think
the
his name is.
Dar.
Yeah,
That's how I've always pronounced his
it's
name.
Zadar. But he's a lot bigger dude than Bruce Campbell, and Bruce Campbell here is a lot skinnier than he is now. But
Yes.
but at the same time, I mean, even the first time I saw it, I was like, he's not the maniac cop right away. But I guess for a brief moment, they're trying to trick the audience into thinking that he might be the maniac cop.
Until you realize he's having an affair with another cop.
Yeah,
But that was a very at some point I must have forgot this that the wife Ellen, Bruce Campbell, the Jack's wife Ellen, gets a phone call telling or hinting
yeah,
that her husband is the maniac cop, and I had completely forgot about that until I was rewatching it, and
yeah,
that's set up like it dawned on me when I was rewatching it now more critically than when I've been watching it before as entertainment value that Tom Atkins character realizes that Jack has always been the fall guy from the very beginning. The whole everything has been he's always been the fall guy, and then of course Nolan, who is um,
yeah. It's like Sally Noland.
Sally
Yeah,
Nolan's manipulating all these characters just to have a fall guy for everything that the Maniac Cop is doing, Cordell's doing. And I was like, oh shit, it's a much smarter film than you would normally give it credit for. Like all these elements are in the story as you're watching it, and it makes what happens all seem logical up until the end, of course, when cops start thinking that Jack actually killed an entire police squad.
yeah,
Just like he's a little dude.
yeah. But he is Bruce Campbell. But he's not. He's not very convincing to be the person that did all that, and he doesn't have any blood on him. There's all this massacre, and he's completely bloodless.
Throwing people out of windows, hanging people. Like he took on an entire police precinct in like the span of 5 minutes. Are you kidding
Yeah.
me?
It's like
Uh,
yeah, it's like some shit the Terminator would do, but it's
well, that's what they reminded me of the scene in
yeah,
Terminator. I see, and I'm beginning to think that people just like to kill a lot of cops in the precinct in movies for a while
yeah,
there.
yeah. I think during this time period, it definitely was that. I think the people there was very much an animosity towards cops, and they like to have that police station. The cops are typically villains, and they would have the police station scene where the whole place just gets eviscerated by somebody, whether it be the villain or
Well, yeah. Well, and so for everyone who's listening, that scene comes much later when Sally and Cordell's scheme to frame Jack does not go as planned because Cordell is supposed to kill Teresa, but he misses his opportunity because she's saved at the last minute by Tom Atkins' McCrae character. And so they have to rethink their whole framing Jack thing because they can't have a witness that could exonerate him.
I think the plan's not very thought out too good. I think she's doing this because she's injured already, but from a previous accident, and she's also infatuated or in love with Cordell. But that was her whole. So, but she has this big plan that's it's kind of a ridiculous plan, but it seems to be working until it's not anymore.
Well, yeah, but it all comes down to I think just trying to make a coherent is the best word, coherent slasher action mystery hybrid film, because the good thing about all the stuff that McCrae does as he's trying to figure out all the bits and pieces of the story is that we as the audience we know who Cordell is, but we don't know how he became the way he is. We find those story elements as McCrae is figuring the whole story out, and then of course we have the I think it's the only flashback scene in the whole movie, actually, where we have Cordell at Pier 14 in the dark at night, contemplating and seeing the past and how he became
Yeah,
what happened to him.
the prison scene.
Yeah. Which I always, every time I see, I hate to say this now, every time I see the scene where he's in the shower, naked, washing himself, I think that's such an odd scene for this movie. And then, of course, he gets stabbed in the back.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. It reminds me of American History X, where there's a scene
uh,
similar to that where Edward Norton's character's in there and they actually rape him and stuff like that. It looks like that's about to go down in there in the shower.
no, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. That's a good point. American
Of
history.
course, American History X was a lot later, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he's in the shower, but that's a good time to get somebody though when they're vulnerable in the shower, and and then he has to fight them with no clothes on, which I think he still has pants on for some reason. But
Well, I'm trying to think about a guy who knows that all these people are coming after him anyways, taking a shower by himself. Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he
I
has
mean,
to expect something, which is
yeah,
why it's good to see that sequence the way it is drawn out, because he actually takes he actually gets a lot of licks in with some of these
yeah.
inmates before they actually get to him.
There's some crazy like he'll like they must have had like pads on the back of their heads because he slams their heads into the wall. It's some crazy. He's pretty good like with some of those moves that he does. He seems to be a pretty good fighter, that guy.
Oh yeah. Which I can't until we get to the second and third one. I can't remember how much stuff is in those films. I mean, offhand, do you remember if there was any flashbacks in those movies?
I don't think I don't it's been a little while since I watched them. I don't think there are. I don't think there's
Okay.
that. If there are, it's like kind of flashes. It's not like as long as this one is.
Yeah. Okay.
This
Yeah.
one is yeah. I mean,
Well,
it's
this
not
one
that
has a lot to
super.
tell people, and
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember if the other two. I don't think there's so much steeped in the mystery aspects. But hey, that'll be for another episode when we get to those two movies.
yeah. But this is
Because everyone out there, it's always interesting to kind of revisit these movies, especially if you haven't seen them in a while. I've seen this one, like I said, last year, but the second and third one, I haven't seen those in a good maybe a few decades.
yeah. I saw him not too long ago, but it's been like I've seen so many other movies in between. It's kind of I mean I remember like most of it, but I don't remember there being flashback scenes in there. But I could be mistaken.
Mm,
I don't. There wasn't one like this one where it went on for like a while though.
yeah. Well, it's at the end of the mystery now. You got to figure out who, what, and why Cordell is doing what he does. So it's all needed. I don't think there's really a wasted moment in the film in regards to story. I think it does a really good job of putting all the pieces together for the audience without spelling it out for them. That's one of the things I like it, and I like the fact that it's not like you're finding everything through Cordell's mouth, but you're finding it through other people's, especially other cops. When Frank McRae goes to see the records about Cordell, he's learning about who Cordell was at the time from the guy who gave him all the records, and then of course
Yeah.
you hear about what happened from prison from the doctor that treated him. You're hearing these other aspects from other characters. Now it opens the film up to a much bigger cast, so it doesn't seem so contained. Um,
Yeah.
so I like those aspects of this film. So
Right, yeah, just the investigative stuff in the middle. It reminds me of like almost like an Italian giallo in a way because most of those are
yeah.
from a detective's point of view, and especially the middle part of it. But it's weird though. It is a 1988 film because it doesn't. To me, it has the look of a much earlier film, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe the early 80s or late 70s. I could. It just I kind of like there's some stuff coming out in 1988 that they like say Return of the Living Dead 2 and things of that nature. So I just like it doesn't have that look. It doesn't have an 80s look to me. It almost does look like a 70s film.
It probably could be, and I wouldn't be surprised if Lustig shot a lot of this on actual streets there in the city and stuff like that, because it feels very much like it was a lot of practical sets. I hate to say,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it feels like it's like if you went to 42nd Street, New York, it was probably shot there type of thing. It feels like
Yeah,
one of
yeah, it
those
does have that feel.
locations.
a very authentic feel to it.
Yes, authentic. It feels very, very authentic, and it also could be the fact that it could have been shot on film. You know, a lot of different elements. The 80s were, but towards the end of the 80s, they were coming up with a whole bunch of strays. Into the 80s slash beginning of the 90s, most of the just a lot of new movies and sequels were done on video instead of film. So you were seeing different qualities in that regards. I don't know exactly. I'd have to do more research to be honest with you. Because
But
I
I mean, a lot of it that reminds me, something like Dirty Harry or something like that. Kind of some of the, especially the car chase sequences. Even the cars look like something out of a film like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Which
But I think it's maybe William Lustig probably has. He's probably thinking that with this kind of grindhouse sort of film in a way. And it is like a grindhouse film, really.
well, it's called Maniac Cop.
Yeah,
I don't know the dates of when Psycho Cop came out, but there was like it was a weird time. It was a weird time. I'm sure that one came out after this one when they realized they made money off this one.
yeah. This what's interesting about this one though is the budget was at about $1.1 million, but it only made 671,000, which isn't. It basically made its money back on TV and on
Yeah,
rentals,
yeah,
and
Reynolds.
so it's successful because of that. But it didn't have a very good theatrical run. But the other two were made direct video, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. I would say that's what I remember the second and third one. But back in those days, who the hell knows? I don't know how many of those films got like limited theatrical releases like I would now. Because nowadays it's easier for us to track those limited release films, whereas back then it was a little harder. There's so many sites now that track all that stuff for us. But back then in the late 80s and early 90s, we didn't have so many great websites that did that. So
So I'm looking at it's Psycho Cop. It's 1989, which is a year later. So yeah, and it's very. I've never seen Psycho Cop, but they're probably ripping this off.
that's sort of what I remember, but I don't remember it. I've seen it once.
Yeah.
I have not gone back to that one. That's not Maniac Cop. That's what I do
But
remember.
Psycho Cop probably does what most people wanted this one to do. People wanted this, the first 20 or 30 minutes of this, that's what they wanted, was that slasher cop. But then it turned into something completely different in the second act. And I bet you that Psycho Cop, which I haven't seen, I bet you it takes the first act of this film and does the whole movie that way.
So I also have to remember. I see there was also another one which I have to mention, which was Samurai Cop, which came out in '91, and that
Okay.
had Robert Zadar in it as well.
Oh, he's in it too. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Samurai
I've never
Cop.
seen that one though. I just remember like seeing the box art and everything like that. And I was like, oh, Samurai. What is it? It just seemed ridiculous, but I didn't realize it was that close to Maniac Cop and Psycho Cop. Psycho Cop I saw when it came out.
Yeah,
Samurai
funny.
Cop I did not.
It's funny though how they used to make movies like they would like make a movie like Friday the 13th, and then the next year the next year they would be making like 10 more movies just like it for the next year. They're like, okay, that's it, we're doing it. It's-
Yeah, well, and then of course, for everyone out there who's listening, I had to add one more out there with those because I only remember these things very vaguely, so I have to make sure I looked them up. But the other cop movie I could think of was the Scanner Cop series, which
okay.
was a spinoff from
Yeah.
Scanners,
Right,
which
yeah.
was
I've actually, yeah,
'94.
I've got copies of Scanner Cops. They're not bad though. Scanner Cops are,
I don't have a copy of those.
yeah.
I need those.
Vinegar Syndrome put them out, but yeah.
Um,
I
but
think that Scanner Cops are better than the Scanner sequels. They're not better than Scanners, but it's actually a pretty cool idea to have a cop with scanner abilities.
mm, no, I
Um,
agree. I like the Scanner Cup movies. When I saw them, I don't have a good copy of them. I have a really bad copy, actually. I think I have like a
yeah.
VHS copy of
Oh yeah, yeah. VHS is probably worth something then.
I have Scanners 2 and 3. I think
Yeah,
Screen Factory did those, but Scanner, the whole thing about cops was just something I remember from when these movies
yeah.
were coming out.
I,
I was
I
like,
feel like the Scanner Cop movies were a lot later than that, but I could be mistaken on it.
yeah, they were '94, '95.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I thought it was later, but maybe it did derive from this idea, the Maniac Cop. But
I'm sure I'm thinking of like what Maniac Cop 3 was 92. They
Yeah,
probably said,
yeah. So
"Oh crap, let's get
yeah,
on the
yeah,
bandwagon." Because
yeah,
the thing is, the Scanner movies were probably the early 90s, and they said, "Oh, Maniac Cop is still making sequels. Let's make a Scanner Cop." You know,
yeah, yeah.
it was a weird time. It was a weird time. But thankfully, with the Maniac Cop films, you know, I'm hoping that when I have a rewatches to part 2 and 3, they are still pretty decent movies because of William Lustig and Larry Cohen. I'm hoping, but we all know the diminishing turns of sequels and the fact that now he's probably just a serial killer killing people. Um, but I do remember when I was younger, I probably watched Maniac Cop more times than I probably should have watched it. It was an entertaining as hell movie to me. And that's because of the fact that it crossed these different genres. It wasn't just a slasher movie. It wasn't just a mystery movie. It wasn't just an action film at the end. It was kind of melding a lot of different genres, and it made a much more interesting film for me. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not what you expect when you're watching it. It's it was this time. I remembered all those because it's definitely very jarring once it changes. Once it shifts its genre. It's not as jarring as From Dusk Till Dawn when all of a sudden it goes from like a crime drama to like a vampire film. But it is somewhat jarring, not immediately jarring, but once you notice that it kind of got out of that rhythm of the slasher part and you're into like a detective film
Mhm.
suddenly, it's like it's almost like a. I think at the time, the first time I saw it, I appreciate the part now, but I did think that part was a little slow, and it kind of went slow for a while up until um, the part where the police department, like when he kills everybody at the police department all of a sudden, then it's like holy shit, when that happens.
What I also noticed this time watching it is the fact that you're right. Bruce Campbell doesn't really do much in this movie. His character comes in late, and then
It's almost 20 minutes in the first time you see him.
he's immediately almost like put behind bars.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything until when he gets escapes with the cop sequence when all the cops die. I was like, oh, he didn't have that. His role was not nearly as big as I was have expected.
But even at the end, when he kind of seems like he might be the protagonist for the last like 20 minutes, it kind of goes to the officer Teresa Mallory all of a
Uh,
sudden because it did seem like he was going to be the guy for a minute, which he kind of is a little bit, but it does focus a lot on her, and because he ends up getting like the shaft again. He gets like tied up and handcuffed again and thrown in the back of the car. It's
yeah,
like,
he's only outside of handcuffs for like that small section where
yeah,
they go from escaping the police precinct to going to go to the prison to
yeah.
see the doctor.
And then when that's happening, he's like hanging out outside. He's not even the one like doing the everything that she is.
Yeah, she's doing everything when they get back into the city. As like he's standing there in the shadows. I can't do nothing. They're gonna arrest me because there's a 5 billion cops here for the parade.
Yeah, yeah. So he has to hide, and he's like hiding while she's doing all the getting all the screen time.
Yeah,
It's saying all the dialogue. So.
yeah,
But he
yeah,
still gets second billing here, and sometimes people even say he's top billed. He was just after Evil Dead, but it's kind of in between him doing Evil Dead and becoming more well known.
yeah. He's not playing a slapstick, funny man character either in this one. It's
Yeah,
very low key, down to earth type of rookie cop. He actually
yeah,
plays like a. I don't. He's not a rookie cop, but it kind of comes off as being a newer cop, like he hasn't been on the force that long.
yeah. And his performance is actually pretty good for the most part in this,
Yeah,
even it's not like. And I think when I first saw this, I wasn't very familiar with Bruce Campbell, and so
I
when
wasn't.
yeah, and so it was like it was a little, it was different seeing him playing like a character that's not trying to be funny. Even though he can't help it, he does make some faces occasionally that kind of go with his sense of humor from the Evil Dead films. That's
I don't remember seeing any faces. I guess I'm gonna have to look for that next time I watch
very, very,
it.
yeah, very
Uh,
few of them, but I did see a few, especially when he's not doing anything and he's reacting to something. It goes a little big occasionally. He just can't help it. He's just used to doing it.
well, this is the funny part because I definitely don't remember this. is that I didn't realize that Sam Raimi's in the movie either, because
Yeah,
he's the one telling he's the newspaper, or not the newspaper, he's the television reporter at the
yeah,
very
yeah,
beginning of the whole parade. And I was like,
right,
holy
yeah,
shit, Sam Raimi's in there.
yeah,
And
right, right, right. Someone got him
I
in
kind of
there.
wonder what the whole relationship between William Lustig and Larry Cohen getting Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi to be in their movie was like.
Yeah, that Sam Raimi is kind of like a cameo, and it looks like it was even shot, maybe even not at the same time as the parade. It's, but it's pretty cool to see him in there, and it's kind of establishes the parade pretty good.
Yeah. Oh well, and Sam Raimi hasn't done many films as an actor. He's done a handful of them.
Right.
But
He usually comes on and gets killed like immediately, or like in Wishmaster, they just drop a box on him right off the bat. It's like, oh, cool, Sam Raimi, boom, box on top of him. He's dead.
yeah, it would be much more fun to see him be like Alfred Hitchcock, just shows up in all of his movies just for the hell of it, or Stephen King, who just says, "I'm just going to be on set for one day. I'm just going to say two lines and then walk off." That
Yeah,
type of
yeah.
thing. Because I don't think we see Sam Raimi enough anymore.
Right, right. Yeah.
Um,
So
what else?
do you want to talk about the big shock of the film that takes place about three quarters of the way into it?
Which one?
But I guess I'm going to
Yes,
drop
go
the
ahead. Let's
spoiler.
go ahead.
Yeah. And this is the thing that's always stuck with me
Okay.
throughout. And this is the biggest thing. I didn't want to say it at first, but it's like the character that Tom Atkins plays, who is
Oh
the
yeah, yeah. I
protagonist.
was. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, he's the protagonist for most of the film.
Most.
Yeah, suddenly gets viciously killed unexpectedly, and then it's like there's still like 25 minutes left of the film after that. So it's like, holy shit, they just killed off the main character.
And that has always struck me as odd. And the thing is, it starts off first, and this is the crazy thing. It starts off first as him being beat up by Nolan because
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. She beats the shit out of him too.
she beats the shit out of him.
Yeah,
And he's all bloodied up and everything like that. And of course, she runs away. He's chasing after her. And then, of course, she gets pulled to a freaking door by Cordell.
yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, she's like his like mastermind, but the dude's so messed up in the head, he just all of a sudden forgets that.
and so it's so weird. Yeah. So this also, we'll talk about the fact that he gets his ass handed to him by Cordell, who throws him around the office, just freaking brutalizes Tom Atkins' character. We're like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah,
This is Tom Atkins. He's getting his ass handed to him. And then, of course, next thing you see is Mallory's waiting for Jack to come downstairs. She's waiting in the car, and she hears glass breaking, and freaking his body comes screaming. He's still alive.
yeah,
He's screaming on his way down as he
yeah,
hits the freaking car right in front of her. And I'm like, damn, that's so fucked up.
right.
Oh, but
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, that was a brutal death. That's one you're not expecting for a main character at like 20 minutes before the end of the movie. Like
yeah,
that's a crazy way for that character to go.
right. I think it's a bold choice.
Mm-hmm.
I've never have been like a big fan of that choice in films, but I do think it is a bold choice, and it kind of makes. I guess it makes you think about the film differently because then it has to kind of at that point it has to go to the other two characters to kind of they have to pick up the slack of being the main character for the last 25 minutes. But it does leave something, I think, for in you, like when you see something like that happens, it is a shock, but at the same time, it always, especially if the secondary character isn't set up right, when that happens, it does leave like a hole
Mm.
in everything. I think one time that I think that's done really well is in you ever see the miniseries Lonesome Dove?
I have not seen
Yeah.
that yet. It's still on my list.
It's great, but that it's done really well in that because they have two kind of main characters, and one of them dies like an hour before the end of the miniseries, but it still works even after that because it's still
Mm.
dealing with his death and things of that nature. But it's done really well in that series. But it's not that it's not done well here. It is done as a shock, but the other characters, not the actors, but the other characters don't they don't pick up the slack as much as you would think for for driving the film forward after that.
Well, I think that's because those two characters, the Teresa and Jack character, aren't as established as well as McCrae's is. Because for me, Jack is the cop who's young, who's having an affair on his wife with his fellow partner, who's been held prisoner for most of the entire film.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah,
pretty much all you get from his character.
right.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, she really becomes the main character
Mhm.
after that, and she doesn't hold the film really for me. Like I think Bruce Campbell maybe could have, but he isn't the main character after that. She becomes the protagonist.
Yeah, and she definitely becomes the protagonist because she's not the one who's handcuffed with handcuffed behind her back for like the last 10-15 minutes of the film. She's
Yeah,
riding a shotgun in a police car with a natural
yeah, yeah, yeah,
ready
yeah.
to shoot Cordell when she gets a hold of him. Although that is
Right. Yeah.
the only part of the movie I still don't like is that she gets to the Pier 14, which is where Cordell is taking Jack, and after Jack has busted through the paddy wagon's doors, she's got that gun. She shoots 2 warning shots, and then she gets Jack thrown at her, and she loses the gun. And I'm like, so this is going to go into the other thing about the film, whether or not Cordell's dead or alive. Number one is earlier in the film, Teresa and McCrae have shot the fuck out of Cordell.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
dude, they've emptied
Yeah.
like multiple
She said,
rounds.
she said she shot him in the head too.
Yeah, she said she shot him in the head.
Yeah.
Of course, you don't see that when we actually see the full face of Cordell. He doesn't look like he was ever shot in the head.
You don't
But
see
then,
her do it either. She says it, but
yeah.
you don't see her actually do it.
But she gives him a warning shots, knowing damn well that the real shots didn't work before.
Yeah.
And so that's the only part I'm like, I don't I'm like, why didn't she just shoot him in the head right then? Clear shot, bright as day.
Yeah.
Why did you give him a
yeah.
warning shot?
Yeah. That I don't understand a lot of the stuff that she does really in that last part. I mean, it's really like it's not even it's the way that the character's written, but because there's probably several things that she does that I was just kind of like, why is she doing that? And it's just I don't know. But that whole thing with him being handcuffed and being slung around the back of the truck, man, that just makes me so uneasy because this is an actor doing this stunt, and you have your hands tied behind your back, and you have to land on your back. It's a very dangerous stunt. He does a good job of it, but it makes me cringe just seeing that happening. And then she throws him. He throws him with the handcuffs on top of her. So again, you have another stuntman or Bruce Campbell, I'm not sure, but with their hands handcuffed behind their back, landed on top of another actress. Dude. It's like that's some crazy. William Leslie really does some crazy stunts in these cop films. So
Yeah, but I've always found this film's entertaining.
yeah,
When I go back and rewatch them, like we're doing now, I tend to see stuff I never saw when I was watching these as a kid. Because I grew up watching these as a kid, not as a filmmaker, not as a film critique and analysis person, but as someone just who enjoyed the movies. So I overlooked a lot of these details because I was too busy being entertained. But it's good to go back and watch these movies now to critique, analyze, and look at them in a different way.
yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, it's really weird too. I think the first part is all dark and it's got a lot of atmosphere. And then the last part, it all takes place during the day. It all looks like a 70s Dirty Harry movie. And it's like I guess kind of gritty like, but it doesn't look like a horror movie anymore for the last
No,
like 20 or 30 minutes. And it's a weird thing. Even like when you see that Maniac cop out in broad daylight, it doesn't look as cool as when you see him in the silhouetted and shadowy and stuff.
no, you know what? You bring up a good point because that first third of the movie, it's all when he kills those first three people, it's all at night. It's dark and it's shot like a horror movie. It's a slasher. He's stalking these people and then he's playing with them. He's that third victim who he handcuffs behind his back and just
Yeah,
watches them run through the streets. crying for help and no one is coming. And then
Yeah.
he falls into cement and then he just drowns
Yeah.
in the cement. Like
Yeah.
those are horror film things there. But once the movie switches to being mostly in the daylight, which is starting at this, I think starting at the sequence where he kills everyone at the precinct, the
Right.
horror elements are gone. I mean,
Yeah, it becomes just like almost like a Terminator or a Dirty Harry movie or some kind of combination of those two things, I think, because it almost like the Terminator mixed with a 70s action film.
well, no, that's a great comparison because the first Terminator could be considered almost a slasher film with robots, with a robot.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, literally, it's a robot who's going around killing people. You
Yeah.
know, so and it's shot that way. There's a lot of dark scenes. There's a lot of scenes that take place at night. There's a lot of scenes that take place during the day. It's a much different film than what Terminator 2 was. And this film is a this is one of those films that, like you said, it kind of hovers between being horror slasher film, action film, and the mystery thriller film. And I think that's I think that's one of the reasons why I think it's such a film that actually stands the test of time better than other films that came out at that time that
Yeah.
tried to be like it.
Yeah, I think they were definitely trying to make something different. They were definitely in a way they were almost like making people think it's a slasher film and then turning it on its head. And
Yeah,
they're definitely trying to do that with the structure of the film.
yeah. So, okay. Uh, okay. I talked about Cord. Well, I didn't answer it. I didn't ask you directly. Do you think Cordell is dead, or do you think he's just a really mentally screwed up cop who's impervious to bullets? What exactly do you think he is?
But given and I'm like you say, I'm partial to Maniac Cop too, and he's definitely undead in that one. I'm kind of,
He's not dead.
yeah, I'm partial to him being undead, but it is depicted differently in this one than the other ones because it is especially once you see the flashback and he's got some kind of brain damage done to him during that attack, and but she does say shot him in the head, but you don't see any wounds to the head, so
Yeah,
it's hard. I really think, but he has the superhero strength. Like he goes into the precinct and he's just picking people up and tearing them apart and stuff, and you just see people hanging upside down. So
yeah,
it's like there's something more going on with it. I don't think we need an explanation. It's better without an explanation. I think because it's you could say that he had some kind of super like universal soldier serum done to him to make him like strong. But I think without that, you don't need that explanation. It's just that he is that way. It works in a way that but it also like is really piggybacking on this police brutality and distrust of police at the
yes.
time. I think that really resonated well with a lot of people when this came out.
I also think that this film has a lot of echoes from the Halloween movies, where Michael Myers seems to be the supernatural force, but he's not dead.
Yeah,
He can be shot by Loomis, but he's not dead. He goes
yeah,
into a coma, and he's got the supernatural strength, but he wakes up from a coma, and he's still not dead. He's just very strong. That's where I see him in this film, especially when we see the reveal of the face at the end. He doesn't look like he's dead. He looks like a
yeah.
normal person with a really screwed up scars and stuff. That's what he looks like.
Yeah. His
He
skin
does,
is flesh tone color. It's
yeah,
not zombie looking. It is. He does have a regular flesh tone, even though a lot of scars.
yeah. I think, like you said, with the second film and by definitely the third film, he's a supernatural force to be working with. He's like, yeah, he should be dead a long time ago, or he's dead and he's just undead now. So
I think they even go into some voodoo shit in the third one. In
yes,
that
I
one.
don't remember the voodoo shit. Oh, it's gonna be fun rewatching that
Yeah.
one.
But yeah, I mean, they all the slashers kind of did that, and they were. This was kind of this is like an underwatched one. I think when people think of slashers, they don't think about this too much, but they all kind of did that, with the exception of Freddy Krueger, who was always the way that he is from the
Mhm.
beginning. But like Michael Myers and Jason, they they eventually became more supernatural and more invincible as the series progressed. You know, especially like Jason, where he becomes like zombie Jason. And he, you know, they bring him back to life. He's struck with lightning, and from then on, he's like zombie Jason. You know.
Oh, Jesus. Yes, and everyone, we'll get to those zombie Jason movies eventually with our podcast. We've only gone up to the third one.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. So, that being said, Dave, are there any other points you'd like to mention about the first Maniac Cop before we are able to get to part two and part three?
No, I think I said everything I have notes on that I see. I don't have anything too crazy to add to it.
I'm sure by the time we get to the second one, which is the one you preferred for like the longest time, you'll probably have lots more to say.
Yeah, maybe we'll see.
Okay. For everyone out there listening to our show, what we like to do is we like to kind of rate the film between 1 star and 5 stars, depending on your likes and dislikes. 1 star being very bad, poor, crap, to 5 stars being excellent, amazing, one of the best guilty pleasure movies out there. Where on the spectrum, Dave, do you place the first Maniac Cop?
I'm going to give it 3.5 stars,
Okay.
which is maybe too generous, but I do like the film. I especially like the first act of it, and I do like the actors, especially Tom Atkins and Bruce Campbell and Robert Zadar as the Maniac Cop, but and Richard Roundtree, but not that he doesn't have that big of a part, but it is Richard Roundtree.
It's Richard.
Yes,
You know,
I
Richard
believe
should just be Richard Roundtree, and
yeah,
he's so amazing in the movie. It's so
yeah.
crazy. Bruce
I, bel
Campbell,
I,
like,
yeah. Yeah, I believe he's the commissioner, though. I mean, Richard Roundtree walks into the room. I believe it. Yeah.
oh Jesus! I'm gonna give the film 3 stars, mostly because I'm still a huge fan of the film, but I believe that the film, like, it just dawns on me that after rewatching it, I think a lot of it does suffer a little bit after we kill off Tom Atkins' character, and then
Yeah.
of course, I like you. I believe that you're right. I think the Bruce Campbell, not Bruce Willis. Sorry, Bruce Campbell character is underutilized for this film, and I could have sworn when I was younger he was in the entire movie, and then I'm rewatching it and I'm realizing no, he's not. And I don't think him and Teresa are really have the same gravitas as Tom Atkins, who holds the entire film for the first 2/3. So I'm gonna give it a 3. So
Definitely a bold choice to kill that character off, and it was very jarring when it happens. But
yeah, yeah.
it has happened in some other films too. Like, but it's always jarring. But sometimes they set it up a little better when it happens.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm believing they just wanted to kill, he get Tom Atkins. Let's kill Tom Atkins off because we got Tom Atkins.
Yeah, but I think they really wanted that for it to be there because I think they wanted it to be when it happened. I think it was just
Oh,
a
yeah.
moment where you're not expecting it to happen because you think he's the main character. And the more I'm thinking about it, they do kind of set up Teresa more, but I really just I don't like the actress's performance really. The more I think about it, I don't buy her as the character that she's playing. She's like almost like a Linda Hamilton type of character, but the actress doesn't quite convince me that she is Linda Hamilton.
Well, she doesn't convince me that she's a cop.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's the thing. She's never like she's supposed to be a vice cop on the cover. She never really convinces me she's a vice cop on the cover. She doesn't really convince me that she's just like one of the regular cops. So I
right.
that's one of the reasons why I gave it a 3 instead of something higher because those two just can't hold the film for the rest of the. I
But
mean,
that,
entertaining, but they can't hold it. Like,
but if you had Linda Hamilton play that part, it would have been a lot
well,
better.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
I
fucking
just thought
yeah.
about it. I just popped into my head thinking about the Terminator and all that, and the way Linda Hamilton, even Sigourney Weaver from Aliens. I think that's what they were trying to do with that character, but it doesn't resonate though within
Mm.
this film.
No, yeah, no, I agree. I agree. All right. Thank you, Dave, for joining me on this conversation of horror, in which we talked about 1988's Maniac Cop from William Lustig and Larry Cohen. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, I hope you've enjoyed the show. I also hope that you'll go out there and like, Share, subscribe, follow, do that thing you do on your favorite podcast, whether it's on your favorite app, Spotify, or YouTube. Also, make sure to check out our sister podcast, Conversations in Four Color, which delves deep into comic books, manga, and graphic novels. That is our Patreon exclusive podcast. And then, for the rest of us, check out the rest of the episodes for Maniac Cop 2 and 3. We hope you enjoy those as well, and enjoy the rest of the films that are being offered here during during franchise month here at Something Wicked Entertainment. Have a great day, everyone. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.